right, welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart abilities video cast and podcast. This is episode 221. It's Easter Sunday, and on behalf of the man, the myth, the legend, and myself, we want to wish everybody a happy Easter. But hey, I'll let the man, the myth, the legend do it himself. So without further ado, please welcome your co-host and my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend. Some even think he might be the Easter Bunny, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show. Big dog.
Well, thank you very much, Eric, and happy Easter to you and your family and to everybody else out there in Control Trends community. We finally breaking the weather, but today it's still chilly. Where's our big sun?
Dude, you rock the sweaters, man. I mean, we're 85 degrees down here, man. The people that look good in sweaters get to live in cold parts of the country, and man, you're rocking and rolling, dude. So, hey, man, speaking about weather, dude, I just got back. We missed last week. I was at the East Coast Control Summit, which is jargon for a golf outing that John Donahue from Controls Consultants and Pat Marcellus from M&M Control put together every year at some of the top distributors in the country and some of the top contractors. We get together, we play golf, and we talk smack about vendors and all kinds of stuff. So a special shout out and thanks again to John Donahue, Pat Marcella, one of the biggest integrators in the country there, Easy out of Maryland, Jeff Ash and Bill Wolford. What great guys, what great golfers they are. They're big Control Trends fans, so we want to give them a special shout out. Vinny Schultz from Honeywell was there. Jeff Irmer, our next Honeywell guy, was there as well. Cool guys. Our friend Nick Conte from up in the Northeast, a big distributor up there, is getting married. So congratulations to Nick again. And Ricky Jones from Relevant Solution, one of the great minds in our industry. The list goes on, but last but not least, of course, is Scott Cross from Temperature Controls in Texas, and your brother, David Smyers from DMS Controls Group out of Pittsburgh. Man, he is like a little mini man, myth, the legend himself. So great guys. We had a great time, and it was great. You learn a lot by getting around people. We're going to talk a lot about Ken's calendar this week, and some of the great events that are coming up. But hey, all I have to say is I play golf once a year, and I do it when I play with these guys. It was a great time. So special shout out to those guys.
Well, I heard you won an award. Don't be so modest. Let's talk about that longest putt award you won on closing day. You brought in won all the money there, right?
Well, I didn't win all the money. We have little competitions. Well, it was so bad the first day that we were in three foursomes. It was so bad the first day they give me like 18 strokes every other day just to keep me somewhat close. But, the way it would work is everybody'd sort of pull up on, if you were in the first foursome, you'd pull up and watch everybody sort of finish. It was actually your brother, David Smyers, who on the first day sunk the long putt, won the long putt. And I think it was on the third day, I was in the final foursome. And after shooting about a 450, I think Bill Wolford actually called me a retard. Everybody's standing up on the green. I'm about 60, 70 feet away, and Lady Luck shined down on me, and I sunk the long putt and won the money for the longest putt that day. So
that's awesome. You know what? That's what keeps people coming back to the golf course. I wouldn't be able to support my family golfing either, but it sounds like a lot of fun. A lot of smart people down there, and I bet you guys don't realize all the business that you're talking down there because that's the all-star list in the controls world. That's a lot of smart people with huge experience, probably 30 years apiece.
Yes. Well, it is. And what's interesting about it is a lot of the trends we're talking about, these guys echo those trends. And, one of the common themes is, hey, you better change with the changes. And we are in the midst of changes. Yesterday, got news that some of our good friends at the local Johnson Controls branch got let go. And I'm understanding that was sort of across the board, United States. So, thoughts and best wishes go to those people that, got let go. But I mean, it happens in our industry. We've talked about it. I think people are having to get leaner and meaner, and you sort of have to redefine what you do. You have to be better at it. I think, being all things to all people now is very, very difficult. Although Easy, the integrator we were talking about, come pretty close to doing that. But it's tough times, Kenny, and with chaos. There's a Chinese proverb: with great chaos comes great opportunity. And I think we all have to be, aware of that and rocking and rolling with it. So,
Yeah, sure. I agree. And we talked about plate tectonics, and how you have these violent disruptions, where you have geographical upheaval and whatever, but we don't even have flat ground anymore. The times are changing so quickly. I think it's disturbing to the point where our society is used to stability, and we're creatures of habit, and so these guys that are losing their jobs. I read something very interesting that said about the technology seems so magical and miraculous these days, but their disruption and displacement brutalizes the human spirit, and I thought that was kind of interesting that you have so much good happening with technologies, whatever, but a lot of people are being disrupted and their personal lives are being affected, and that causes great stress. But we see some good changes too. Like one of our first posts is going to go into the Control Trends Awards highlight. We see Roger Rebanak and Mike Marston giving the award, presenting the awards to Luis Malgaras of Neptronic and Gary Weber of Belimo. But heck, Roger Rebanak is now in a different place. So I mean, just moving a foot, nothing's remaining static except
well, we broke the
taxes.
We broke the taxes and death, right? Well, we broke the news about Roger Rebanak. And if you get a chance to see this video, Raj is one of the great people in our industry. We call him the most exciting man in the industry. There are tons of videos with Roger on there, but he's a long-term Honeywell, and now he's a CEO of Jackson Controls, one of the the top distributors in the United States out of Indianapolis. And I think it bodes well, Kenny. I mean, one of the trends we're talking about is the fact that I think the distributor can become maybe the most important cog in this whole system, as you see the branches paring down, as you see the owners becoming more educated and more interested in open systems. I mean, distributors have to sort of, as well as integrators for that matter, really have to sort of redefine themselves as being brand agnostic. In other words, the owners want the best technology that's available at that time. The days of the loyalty and, hey, I just do this brand or that brand are over. I think if you want to stay relevant, you better be able to talk multiple systems. And I think that's where the distributors can really come in and help the integrators and create value. I mean, I think our job more so than ever as distributors is to stay on top of the trends and make sure that we educate our integrators and our end user customers. And I got to tell you, Kenny, a little foreshadowing, we got a marvelous guest coming on in a little bit that is going to be able to shed so much light on all this. He's a retired integrator, one of the top guys, and we'll introduce him later, but stay tuned for that. We'll get to delve into some more of these topics. But the PID Award, Kenny, passion, integrity, dedication. Mike Marston is a great example of this. Roger Rebanak was the first person to ever win it. And we had two great inductees into the PID class this year, in Luis Melgares from Neptronics, one of the all-time greats, and our friend Gary Weber from Belimo. Okay, well, listen, I'm getting a text here on the Control Trends text line from Tom Rossback, and he's wanting to know, hey, whatever happened to Ken's calendar? I need to know about all the events that are going on. You haven't done Ken's calendar in a while, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're bringing back this week's segment of Ken's Calendar. Roll the music.
It's time for Ken's Calendar. Get all the information you need on upcoming events, including training classes, webinars, and conferences. All the event news you need right here,
events coming
right
now.
now.
Belimo's webinar,
take it away, Ken.
On April 19th, we've got Link Spring's 30 minutes with Link Spring on some very important new things coming out with the JACE 8000 or their the LinkSpring version is a PC 8000, and also WebStart. Belimo's got a great seminar. They always have great seminars. You learn a great deal on the Belimo energy valve, solving low delta T and leveraging IoT. We've got the 20th coming up. We've got Sierra Monitor, discover your BACnet network like never before. That's April 20th at 10 a.m. And then we've got announcements about what's coming down the road. We've got we've got the Project Haystack is a big event coming up. We've got Controls Group North America next week down in Memphis, Tennessee. We've got the big EasyIO global meeting in England coming May 21st through the 23rd. So please check out the
well, don't forget
Ken's
Light
calendar.
Fair, Light Fair 2017.
Yep, I was going to wrap that one up. That's becoming more and more critical because never underestimate how important lighting is becoming. And as our building management concepts and our energy efficiencies are all taken for granted and assumed to be there. Everybody's got a good system, and you expect to have that kind of control over your HVAC and provide a comfortable environment. Now lighting is becoming, it's taking center stage in many regards. Many think that whoever controls the lights are going to control the rest of the building integration, because once you put something up into the ceiling, once you have a network or power there, it's a central point of distribution in a zone, in a room. So there's going to be a lot of technology on display at the Light Fair 2017. I took a preview of that, and I hope everybody has a chance to just see what's going on, because it's going to be highly attended. It's another networking event, a lot of training going on, a lot of new technology.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's great, Kenny. And all those events and the links to those events are on Ken's calendar. I mean, you can still save some money on some of these, like going to England, which, by the way, Kenny and I are going to be at the England event, the EZIO event. We've been at, I think, virtually every one of them. These guys know how to throw a hell of a party. And Kenny and I got a big surprise for you, because we're going to take a little detour to a very special place. And Kenny has a connection with a gentleman by the name of Pete Best. And we're not going to tell you who he is. We're not even going to give you a hint. Go see the Beatles Love in Las Vegas if you haven't seen it yet. But Kenny and I could be bringing you an undercover control trends report from Liverpool, England, as well as Manchester. So we're going to try and show our control trends community what they're missing if they're not there. But if you get a chance to go, this event is awesome. And Kenny, guess what? Ricky Jones is going to England from Relevant Solutions. So I think more and more people are starting to see the value of this. Not only is it a great product, but the networking opportunities are fantastic. And EZIO just does such a great job of really best technology, great entertainment. And where else can you write a trip to England off? Send your wife shopping, write it off, and go to England and hang out with us, right, buddy?
Well, it's a lot of fun. They've got a soccer game connection. If you want to see Manchester United play soccer in that time period, there's an option there. They also have a lot of training going on. Mike Marston just sent us another an update that they're going to be featuring the FW8 and 14, the wireless. In fact, they've got a VAV set up now that's an amazing, amazing development that they're not. EZIO is really taking advantage of this global meeting to display a lot of new technology. The other big one, Ken, that we're going to be at that is kind of a no-brainer is the Haystack Connect 2017 down at Saddlebrook, which is just a little bit north of Tampa. We're going to be down there with Mark Peacock and John Petsy and Scott Mensch and all those great people. And for our listeners who may not know what Haystack is and why that's relevant, Kenny, give them a little bit of a breakdown of that, if you would. Project Haystack is basically templating information to reduce engineering time and to get jobs done easier. It is to put the semantics, make them universal, make them the same, so that there's no difficulty taking equipment and taking controllers and implementing them or getting them onto the network and starting to do your program, because everybody's using the same vocabulary, basically same dialect, same talk. Instead of individuals naming things unconventionally, it's to make it standard. I would highly recommend getting down there, because it's going to be the future. What's driving Haystack and what really has driven Haystack is this whole thing about big data and analytics. Okay, I mean, everywhere you talk, I mean, if you don't have the information in a format that you can use and the data in a format you can use, you really can't do anything with it. So, Kenny and I have been talking about the trend of big data for a while. And it wasn't that you couldn't get data and other things before Haystack. It just was costly to do it. So, I mean, we talked to some of your integrators at some of these things, Kenny, and I mean, it can reduce the time by 20 to 30% to be able to link this data up, because you're basically not having to manually do it. It happens automatically with these tagging conventions. So it's a huge piece, and and you're going to see more and more of it. The consulting engineers, the owners are going to start demanding more and more of it. And the proof's in the pudding. I mean, we've seen demonstrations where Scott Mensch and Jason Briggs from J2 Innovation have gotten up and brought on in front of a live audience actual real live buildings with diverse systems. The only commonality they had was they had Haystack tagging. And we have actually seen and recorded, you can go back to Control Trends and see this, where they brought on 10, 15 different systems in a matter of minutes and had them communicating through this Haystack tagging. These guys do a great job with the show. It's a lot of work, a lot of information, a lot of great networking, and also a lot of great fun. If you can see over my shoulder there, it's at Saddlebrook, which is just an incredible resort. and it's going to be a lot of fun.
The last one that we're going to, we got two big ones. We're going to go to Cochran's ControlCon, which is in June. We've got links on there, which is going to be fantastic. Cochran's celebrating, I think it's their 50th anniversary. And everybody's going to be there. That's going to be absolutely phenomenal. We'll have Scott Cochran on probably next week or the week after to talk more about that. And then Realcomm IBCon, Kenny. We're going to be at Realcomm IBCon covering that. Hey, Kenny, speaking of that, our guest is teed up on the computer and ready to go, and he's very involved in this. So without further ado, I'd like to bring our guest on. And our guest, who's been standing by, is a good friend of mine. He and I got started in the controls business in Atlanta, Georgia at the same time. Hell, he and I both know that pneumatics is spelled with a P and not an N. That's how old we are. But this guy went on to become and run one of the most successful building automation control companies with one of the most successful contractors, McKinney's, here in the Southeast, maybe on the planet. So I tell you what, it is with great, great pleasure that I introduce Leroy Walden, who is now retired. So he's looking at life from the other side. He is living the dream. So Leroy, thanks for taking a few minutes from the margaritas on the beach to spend some time with me and Kenny.
My pleasure, guys. Yeah, really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Great intro. Thanks very much. I was very fortunate in my career. Started off in 1978 with Robert Shaw Controls.
Remember that?
And kind of interesting that started off on an electronics background, double E major, but I went to work directly with a pneumatic control company because at that point in time, building automation was about pneumatic electric controls and that type of thing. So over the years, obviously, I was able to actually use my electronics background because the market kind of came to me. It came to me in the fact that everything eventually went electronic, computer based, and ultimately DEC. So
sure. It's great. Hey, Leroy, I got to hop in here because, Kenny, I tell you what, Leroy was one of the first guys because he worked for a distributor here in Atlanta. And Leroy, you can't overlook this part of your career because you were one of the first distributors that really sort of embraced controls and got out and started selling it. Back in the days when every controls only came through the Honeywell branch or the Johnson branch whatever. So
it was a unique time because, quite honestly, building owners, much like today, building owners don't like to feel like they don't have any choices. And they were very accustomed to working with their favorite distributor in the marketplace. And the distributor that I had the opportunity to go to work with had just signed on with Robert Shaw to sell their pneumatic and electronic control product line over the counter. And with my background, they saw a really good fit. I saw a good fit. And essentially what I did is I became their engineered system sales representative. And I called on independent temperature control contractors who ultimately became building integrators, by the way. And so essentially over the years, I was able to kind of grow with the industry as it morphed from pneumatic, electronic. And then as the access to product changed being that the distributor became more prominent rather than just the gas valves and peripheral type devices, actually able to provide complete system-based products in an engineered package basis or to support a wide range of integrators. So yeah, our histories have been intertwined for quite a number of years, Ken, and Eric kind of professed the fact that we've seen Atlanta grow up from a small town to, my God, I'm so glad I don't have to get in traffic anymore.
No, absolutely. And I tell you what, Leroy, one of the things that really fascinates me too is because, there's an old saying, we're not sure who discovered water, but we're pretty sure it wasn't a fish. Meaning the fish is in the water all the time. So you're sort of out of the water now. And I can't wait to hear, first of all, what you're doing. And secondly, sort of if your perceptions have changed now, you're sort of out of the water and looking at it from a different perspective.
Well, I had a great career, and you pointed out I finished out my career in February with McKinney's, and I agree with you, best contractor, no doubt, in the Southeast region. And through good fortune, I was able to help lead the growth and development of an organization within that focused on building automation, temperature controls, and ultimately systems integration and data. And so I had a really good opportunity to get a good start and a good base, and the good fortune of hiring really bright people And those really right people have now picked up the mantle, and they're moving forward with, continuing to grow and maintain that business. But what I found is that there's a lot going on in the industry that I'm very fascinated about. I've been a technology guy from the start. If you ask my mom, she'll tell you every toy I ever got, I had to take it apart to see how it worked.
Nice.
And it's not much different now. I'm still wanting to look under the hood and see what's going on and see what how things can be made to be better. So one of the things I've been able to do since I've left is no longer do I have to worry about that direct P&L on projects and closing deals and monthly reports and those types of things. What I'm able to do now is kind of use my time to explore and expand my horizons as it relates to technology. And one of the things that I found early on, I'd say probably 8-10 years ago, was that as an independent dealer, you have to be a member of a peer group in some shape or form, and you have to be able to kick ideas around with guys that are your contemporaries, and not necessarily just about product. Product and technology are going to continue to morph and change and grow, but business and business ideas and business goals are the thing that really kind of set apart the true integrator from just a guy who just wants to get out and make a living selling and installing controls. So about 6 years ago, came upon this group, Jim Young and Howard Berger with Realcomm, and the message that they were promoting to the real estate community is specifically about how technology needs to support operations, how technology needs to support acquisition, management, and so forth of real property, real estate, and that type of thing. But the other thing is that where does that technology come from? And we've got manufacturers that come up with products, but the real challenge is how do we get that product installed, implemented, maintained over the years? And so that's where the systems integrators really come in. So the thing that I've been doing most feverishly, Eric, since retiring in February, has been working with the promoters and founders of Realcomm and the Intelligent Building Conference, IBCon, and really trying to promote the idea that there needs to be more direct integrator participation in this program. For the last 5 years, they've had a Smart Building Integrator Summit that's focused specifically on those integrators that the real estate people so desperately depend on to come in and hear the messages about topical things, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, connectivity, cloud, and so forth. And not only hear about it, but also commit themselves to grow their businesses to support, be able to provide those solutions for those customers. And so I've really been enjoying that. And so for the last 4 or 5 months, I've been working with them to help promote. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I definitely want to talk a little bit about it because I've got some things that are going on this year that we're going to make this year's Smart Building Integrator Summit even better than the ones that we've had in the past. But we can talk about that at a point in time later on. But talk about me and what I'm doing beyond that is that I have established a consultancy around smart buildings and around technology for the most part. And the thing that I found during my years working as an integrator is that too often people look for technology to solve problems directly. But the reality of it is that we all know that operations moves at the human speed. We have to be able to depend upon people to actually move the operations needle forward. And so technology needs to support the human element. So technology needs to support, give information. Just like, for instance, we can't imagine a day today without Google. We got information we need. We go Google it, we get the information. And essentially, the technology is bringing us knowledge that we can then consume and then make better decisions as we move forward. My focus is I want to find those people that really want to say, I know I need to spend money. Where do I need to spend my money that'll give me the most bang for the buck? That basically gives me something pragmatic, something that I can work with today and know that I can grow with it as time goes. Too many times we want to boil the ocean. We really can't do that. All we want to do is boil a cup of water. And then once we get started, we can realize so many more things we can do.
Well, Leroy, it's interesting you say that. I want to put things in perspective too. We've had Fred Gordy on a ton, Leroy. talking about cybersecurity. And I know, that's one of the trends that Kenny and I track a lot. And I think Kenny's got a question on that here in just a second. But let's put this in perspective. Leroy actually hired Fred Gordy. So McKinney's was on cybersecurity, and Fred was a pioneer there, sort of under your, we got to figure this out. We got to be involved in it. So,
right.
So I want to put that in perspective. That Leroy's been on the cutting edge one way or another, either by empowering people he's worked with, or just directly. So, so with that, you're preaching to the choir about Realcomm Ibicon. Ken and I have been to several of the sessions, and I tell you, if you're an integrator, it's the only place you can go that you can hear directly from the owners that are looking for people to provide solutions, what they want. You can learn about the latest technology. At the same time, you can actually, the customers are there that are looking for integrators to do that business. But Kenny, I know you're chomping at the bit to jump in.
Well, sure. Well, Leroy, I just want to say thanks for being on Control Trends, and I appreciate all the information you share. I've seen you speak at several Realcomm events and other events, and you're right. The amount of experience you have is it's just so helpful, because you can take that and you can synthesize all these ideas and make them understandable. So you got a great way to doing it. But I always, like Eric said, we follow these topics and these trends, and every year it's like playing poker. We discard a couple and we take a couple new ones on. But cybersecurity and cyber threats and the integrator role is just, when you say that, I could talk about that all day. Tell us about what's going on, your views of it, and why an integrator comes to Realcomm and get better at it, and what's the future look like.
Appreciate that, Ken. Yeah, and Eric, thank you very much for acknowledging Fred Gordy. He's a great friend of mine and a great resource to our community, no doubt about it. I had the good fortune of having him join my team, 8-10 years ago, and he immediately became more than a coworker. He was more of a compatriot and a confidant, and I'm just so excited to see his vision for what he wanted to do as far as pursuit of ICS and security for building systems go where it is. So, because Ken, you're right, it's a pertinent. I mean, it's a major issue. And it'll continue to be a major issue. I don't know if you guys saw just recently that Amazon's secondary storefront clients were hacked. So you said we like to think about Amazon and Amazon Web Services being, on top of their game as it relates to, being ahead of the hackers and that type of thing. So the harsh reality is that there's going to be people that stay up at night, when you and I are sleeping, thinking up ways to do harm and to do evil. And so we have to be constantly on our guard. And so very pertinent issue as it relates to the growth of intelligent building products, and especially those that connect to wide area networks and or connect to wide area networks that are broadband connected to the internet and so forth. Because essentially, once something is connected to the outside world, then essentially it becomes vulnerable to anyone who can attack and hack. So what's the integrator's role? Well, last year I had the opportunity to speak at the Smart Building Integrator Summit, very specifically about how cybersecurity directly impacts integrators. And what we're finding is that, take for instance the Target situation where they were hacked because of some misplaced credentials, let's say. The reality, though, of it is that it changed dramatically the way their contract language was written around how they contract to external sources, vendors, or so forth, especially those that have some type of a close proximity connection, like, for instance, to a billing system or to a work schedule and work order system, that type of thing. And so it becomes more and more incumbent upon the integrator not necessarily try to stay ahead of the hackers, and that's important. It's very important to make sure that you've got practices that are appropriate. But you've also got to stay alert to contract language that's basically going to try to push liability for hack and remote access directly to the integrator. So it's that kind of insight that you find coming from multiple sources. And when I say, each integrator needs to be a part of a peer group, it needs to be a peer group of entrepreneurs like themselves who basically are out facing the day-to-day challenges in business that are not necessarily, DEC control or product specific. They're basically business type situations. So hope that answers your question, Kim.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I was there, and I tell you what, you can't know enough about this. And again, the threats are they're emerging. The threats that were bad last year and we solved are just the tip of the iceberg, because there's more coming at us than we can physically and mentally handle. So to share and network and get all this stuff in a consolidated format is a great help. So I'm looking forward to it.
There's a dedicated free conference event this year just around cybersecurity, especially as it impacts the growth of the Internet of Things, cloud security, that type of thing. So I recommend that you not only consider the Smart Building Integrator Summit, but also the Cybersecurity Roundtable, which is going to be on the same day as a pre-con event. I think it's going to be 3.5 or 4 hours.
I can't say enough, Leroy, about Realcomm Ibicon and what Jim Young and Howard Berger have done. The first one Kenny and I went to, we heard Daryl Smith from Microsoft speak, and he's right on the trends. We're talking about data analytics, rules based sort of things versus alarm based, and Daryl Smith was talking about how they, nobody ever complained. They never got any alarms on their campus because everybody was comfortable with their energy bills were through the roof. And they put, I think it was Iconics on there. And they realized that was because they were running their heating and cooling at the same time. So I think he saved a couple $1 million just by, using analytics with that. But we are seeing, and I know you have been right at the cusp of it, and people can learn more about big data and analytics and how they're being used at Realcomm Ibicon. But speak a bit about it from your experience, Leroy.
It's really kind of funny because I'll go back to Fred Gordy. He and had one other co-worker at McKinney's, a fellow named Brian Gilmore.
I remember
both
Brian,
both very much focused on data and very much focused on the uses of data to kind of tell the story, to kind of preload information to the building operators and building managers. So we kind of really really the only thing that was available on the market at that time was Sky Foundry. And it was very early. It was a fledgling product at that time. And so we had, like I say, the good fortune of running across a customer, actually, who was using a product that we recognized as a thought leader product. Splunk is the product. And so he said, basically, if this Splunk software can look for anomaly in log data from servers, why can't we also use it to port real-time data from building automation systems or power systems and look for anomaly in that data? And so we ran an experiment, and by golly, it worked. And so very early, prior to the flood of new analytics platforms, we basically set out to develop our own analytic platform. And I'm really proud to say that we had great success. We almost right out of the box put it on the largest system, the Air Force, Eglin Air Force Base. It's bigger than the state of Rhode Island, and we've got all their buildings. They had all their buildings all tied in using the Splunk platform. So data and data analytics and what it can tell us about operations of buildings, it's a foregone conclusion now. We take it for granted. What I'm really excited to see, though, today is that more analytics are being built into the platform, the building automation platforms directly. You've seen a lot about the Niagara platform with its built-in analytics. And there are others. There are others that have analytics that are baked in. And that's really where it needs to go ultimately. Having to port data out into some type of an outboard system, while it served its purpose, I think that now what we want to be able to do is to get that information more readily at hand directly from the building automation or the power monitoring system that we have.
Excellent. I looking forward to it again, because the people that really use this are the real estate folks and the people that have incredible portfolios, from California to New York. When we talk about some of these great companies, like you had mentioned with McKinney's and everything, how do you get people for these master systems integrators that are looking? How do you get people to come into the organization and make a great organization? And then how do you retain them, Leroy?
Wow, that's $64 million question, Ken.
I think our control change committee might have to pay for this one, right?
yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah, no, that's what I can assure you that's going to be an ongoing battle. And the reason for that is that because we're at that inflection point where building systems and IT systems have really kind of conjoined, very quickly. A person who comes through the building trades who shows confidence and capability with network and, connectivity and that type of thing, very quickly their worth ratchets way up. And so consequently, finding the people, it's the age-old problem of really you just got to recruit every day. If you're an integrator, you have to be on a recruiting every day. Give you an example. I walked into an auto parts store and walked in. I recognized this young man behind the counter and struck up a conversation. Turned out he was on my son's swim team. And I said, Zach, what are you up to these days? He said, well, I'm going to Southern Poly. I'm taking computer programming and I'm working here part-time because I need some extra cash. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. What are your plans? Well, my plans are to eventually get into some type of an IT or a security platform. I said, well, what about building controls? And he said, well, I don't know anything about building controls, but, I'd like to hear more. And so consequently, we brought him on board and he became very quickly one of our brightest programmers. So you really have to you really have to be on a constant recruiting mission. If you're an integrator, and especially in today's community, the retention part is twofold. You've got to continue to offer challenges. People want to be challenged. Everybody gets up in the morning and say, I want to succeed today. I want to be successful. I want to have a great day today. And the way you do that is that you make sure that you put them in front of some really good projects and really good challenges that help them show what their capabilities are and continue to see them grow. But long-term retention, you really have to stop and think, how do I make sure that I'm compensating this person based upon their not value to me and my contemporary organization, but how do I put the value in them that shows that, this is the industry they need to stay in and that there's just as bright a future here as there is going forward. So at the risk of sounding like a broken record, there's actually a session at this year's Smart Building Integrator Summit that focuses very specifically on that. How do we recruit? How do we retain? And again, that's one of those insights that as an integrator, I very much value. That insight that comes directly from a peer in the industry who's facing the same challenge that I am on an hour-by-hour and day-by-day basis. And so it's not something that'll go away. As the technology continues to proliferate and as more and more bright young people come into the marketplace, I'm really grateful for the fact that we've got a lot of outreach programs that are going on to help entice them into the building trades and into the operations side of real estate. And hopefully we'll continue to do that. The next step is going to be how do we continue to train them up to the next level on the IT side.
Well, Leroy, I tell you what, I can speak from experience because obviously your company, McKinney's, big customers of ours, and I want to compliment you again on what a great job you do because McKinney's is known for their great people. You've attracted a lot of great talent. Sure. We mentioned Fred Gordy, Brian Gilmore, for example, Stephen Johnson down there now, who took over for you that you trained, yep. and he's doing a great job. Listen, I want before we get back to Realcomm Ibicon again, I want to ask you a couple of questions because Ken and I, one of the trends we're tracking is everybody wants choice. Okay. Right. Which is great, and choice in who they work with, what systems they buy, what technology they use. But one of the trends that we're seeing, and I think this is where your consulting business can help, and I might be leading you a little bit here, so if I'm off, you can let me know. But Ken and I are seeing a trend too that there's so many choices now, a lot of choices that owners or even integrator customers can sort of just, it's too much to think about. I'm just going to do it this way. Are you seeing, and would you help customers with sort of analysis by paralysis? What's your best option sort of thing?
Very much so. And the thing that's really happening is that the industry is playing directly into greater choice. It's playing to greater choice because so many traditional building type things. I'm talking about air handling units and pumps and variable speed drives and all of those pieces of mechanical equipment or heating, cooling equipment or power monitoring equipment are coming now with an embedded microprocessor. And it's not just that it's an embedded microprocessor that's enclosed and closed loop. It's basically it's a functioning piece of a broader or a wide area network. It's a smart thing. And so, the Internet of Things is not just about a refrigerator that can talk to the toaster. It's actually about a chiller that can actually communicate directly to the variable speed drives on the pumps. or the chill water valve that controls the variable primary system in a chill water system. So it's more about those pieces. Now the integrator's role is becoming more, let's say, multilingual, in the fact that integrator needs to make sure that the products that he recommends or the product that he has in his bag of tricks is able to support as many of those open platform-based systems or products that they run across. And so, what's the other thing that's kind of interesting is, Eric, is that used to a sensor on the wall was just an end sensor, and basically all it did was, let's say it had a resistance element built into it or some type of solid state temperature sensing element, but it didn't really have any intelligence. It didn't have a microprocessor, nor did it have any kind of communications protocol. Well, what we're seeing now is a proliferation of smart end devices. Smart end devices as in smart wall sensors and smart damper actuators and smart valves. And what that means is that those devices themselves have the ability to self-control, self-tune, self-optimize, and in some instances actually provide onboard analytic. They can actually tell you if there's a trend that's high or low or otherwise as a direct message, and connected to an IP network, that device can directly communicate. So, unlicensed access to product is where you distributors really shine, because, that product right now, a lot of the product that we're traditionally seeing, the Johnson Controls, and this is no disrespect to them, no disrespect to Siemens or Honeywell or Schneider Electric or whomever, because they have a business model that they basically, have built around an ecosystem, which is a little bit of a closed and proprietary network of field controllers. But the reality of it is that more and more things are coming with an embedded microprocessor that's available through some type of an open API, that we no longer need the licensed product. Essentially, the thing will come up, it'll spit out a web page, you configure the backnet parameters that you want, it'll immediately begin to share data, immediately begin to send alarms, alerts, and whatever, without ever having to connect to a Johnson laptop or a Schneider laptop or so forth. I
think it's a great point. I want to ask you this because Kenny and I, obviously we're distributors, and as you know, there are people that go direct. We call them proprietary systems. Schneider is one of the great ones. Johnson controls the branches.
Right.
We are constantly arguing why that's not a good idea for a customer. And I know you've done both. You've done open and you've done proprietary, and sort of for our Control Trends community, in the essence of sort of all perspectives, give us an argument why an owner might want to go with a proprietary system versus, and I say proprietary meaning like they got one rep, a Distech rep or a Schneider rep or the Johnson branch, versus going through a distributor that has multiple people in the area that could work on it.
Great question, Eric. Because there are those customers. You'll see that a lot in college and university settings where they want to stay very, very homogenized or closed. Right. They want to say, because essentially what they're looking at is that they depend on that for comfort. And so what they've equated to, single source responsibility is going to give me one person to call, one set of people to work with, and I have a lot of high confidence level that it's going to be a continuous process, one after the other. And that's very true. In the world of open systems, a lot of owners see it kind of as the silver bullet that's going to solve my price escalation problem. Well, that's true, but each owner has to take a very proactive role in ensuring that the system, that if they got multiple providers working on their building or their campus, you got to make sure that those guys are playing by the same rules. There has to be some arbiter. There has to be someone that oversees to make sure that that's being done according to what formula there is. So the plus is that they could depend upon that one group that have one call to make. They would be basically beholding to that manufacturer, whoever it may be, for implementing the newest technologies. But the reality of it is that maybe all they want is comfort, and so consequently they just want to say, I depend on this group for comfort. they give me a system that works, and I can depend on it month after month.
Well, I tell you what, I think this is a great, lead in, because the other people that show up at the Realcomm IBCon event are obviously the real estate people. If you really want to know what your choices are, this is a great place to go. One of the things Kenny and I are seeing more and more of, we call them the enlightened engineers, and we got a couple of them in Atlanta now that really are understanding, because it's complex. I mean, when you introduce choice, it's complex. So we've seen, a lot of the engineers are still the same way, cut and paste is the way we've always done it. We're seeing more and more, engineers are getting enlightened, but we're also seeing a place for people, I think like your company, what you're doing with your consulting company, and people like Fred Gordy, Intelligent Buildings, where an owner really needs somebody to come in that really specializes and understands integration,
right,
the controls, the ramifications, the changes, because it's not a static target we're looking at. I mean, it's changing. By the time this interview is over, there'll be some new wrinkle in the whole system. So, again, I can argue why if you're an owner, an integrator, you want to be at Realcomm IBCon, because I think that's one of the things that they tackle head on. And, well, real quick, before we go on with this, how do people get a hold of you, Leroy?
Well, I've got a web presence. I set up a LLC, High Rose Consultants. High Rose is the name that we gave our home here.
Nice.
And it's a home-based business. So highroseconsultants.com. And then you can reach me quite easily at Leroy.Walden at highroseconsultants.com. Directly.
Of course, the best place to find you is out in San Diego at Realcomm IBCon, right?
That's right. Come June 12th, 13, 14, I expect to see a high number of people show up. I was retained by the Realcomm folks to help promote and drive more participation in the Smart Building Integrator Summit coming up here in June. And I'd really like to know that a large group of your listeners are planning on attending. One thing that's really kind of interesting, the Smart Building Integrator Summit set out to, with the mission of bringing integrators together to have more or less a private conversation around the smart building technologies that building owners are asking for, and then basically having the discussion around not necessarily technology, but around the business aspects of being a smart building integrator. And we talked a little bit about cybersecurity as one of those. We talked a little bit about employee retention, employee acquisition. That's just a couple of the topics. So my expectation is that if you've never been, you'll miss out. Here, I've got some really interesting statistics. In 2015, there were 101 participants in the Smart Building Integrator Summit. In 2016, there were 149 participants. And so we had a 32% increase, roughly, in participation in the Smart Building Integrator Summit year over year, 2015, 2016. But what I found particularly interesting, got some statistics here about the participation. Fewer than, the first year, fewer than 23% of the total participants in the first year were integrators. In 2016, only 40% of the participants, 58 out of 144, were integrators. And what that says is that the rest of the people that are at this conference are your customers, are the customers who are interested in how can I learn more about smart building technologies? Maybe how can I become more proficient to do this myself? What are the things I need to be thinking about? And those type of things. So there's really the opportunity that if you haven't been to the Smart Building Integrator Summit as a part of the IBCom Realcomm, that you're missing out. The thing that I found in year one, which has been 6 years ago now for me, in year one, I walked the floor and I ran across no fewer than 6 of my own customers from Atlanta who were there at the show trying to learn more about connected building technologies. And I really felt a little bit embarrassed in the fact that I hadn't spent the time to kind of help them, self-educate. But the fact was they were there. They were there. And the bad thing was they were there and I wasn't there with them, except for that 1 year. And so I made it a pledge at that point to be at the conference year after year. And so the recommendation is, be there. Your customers are there and they're learning about things, and they're going to want to have someone they can trust to work with, year over year, month over month, month after month. to get these things done. And if you're there learning and listening and hearing and seeing the same things that they are, then I can guarantee you their trust factor is going to go way up. So
well said.
I've got a little bit of a special offer too, Eric. If there's an opportunity, I can talk about it.
Well, special offer, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm on the advisory committee as well as working in the promotional side, and the advisors have the opportunity for custom invitations, personal invitations, and this year a new category was opened up. Special invitations just for integrators. So right now I want to say, Control Trends exclusive right here. You email me, leroy.walden@highroseconsultants.com, your interest as an integrator in participating in Smart Building Integrator Summit this year. You'll be entitled to a $100 discount on the 1095 registration fee. So you send me your email contact info and I'll email you back a personal invitation that will get you that discount. Now, the early bird discount has expired. It expired on the 14th of April. So that has expired. But through this promotion, I'm able to extend this $100 discount per registration to the integrator customers who are listening to Control Trends today.
Well, I tell you what, Leroy, that's awesome. Thank you for that. And what Kenny and I will throw in on top of that is the first 20 people that contact Leroy and sign up for the conference, we'll give you a free ticket to the 2017 Control Trends Awards in Chicago.
Oh my gosh!
And we'll put you at the table with Leroy, and then we'll have a drinking contest or something like that.
Wow! I tell you, I didn't get to go to CTA this year, Eric. But just looking at the photos and hearing the results, it was just fantastic. I did get to come last year, and my gosh, what a show it was! It was fantastic, and my hat's off to you two guys. What you're doing for the industry and getting the word out. I mean, it's worldwide. So you guys are definitely on a course to world fame, and I really appreciate the opportunity to ride along with you.
Well, listen, Leroy, we're hoping we appreciate you coming on, and we're hoping we get you on a regular basis. I think your perspective from, like you said, you're the fish out of water now. That has been in the trenches for all these years, and I think your perspective is invaluable. So we feel real fortunate that we're getting a chance to talk to you. And I'd kind of like to close up, Kenny. You might, if you have another question, you can ask one too. But I kind of like one of the questions I'd like to have you ask is, being that Ken and I are both distributors, and your background, you were a distributor back in the day. You've been an integrator. You really are a visionary, one of the true visionaries as far as I'm concerned. To our distributor listeners out there, first of all, I think if you're a distributor, you should definitely be at Realcon Bibicon too.
Absolutely.
But to our distributor customers out there, in your opinion, what do distributors need to do to stay relevant with all these technology changes going on and all these trends we're seeing?
I mean, you two guys are some of the best. Scott Cochran, his philosophy is the same. Basically, it is you've got to stay abreast of the changing trends and technologies. And, you're chasing the same ball that the integrator is. You're trying to determine what is this new technology and what's it going to mean to the customers that are in my marketplace, and how do I need to make sure that I've got the products on the shelf. The real key to you guys, and hats off to you, Eric, because one of the things that I've known about Stromquist for numbers of years is they have it on the shelf, and that's a real strong word. No matter how sophisticated the product, I mean, variable speed drives on the shelf, programmable logic controllers on the shelf, DDC controllers on the shelf. That's a big statement and a big commitment, and not one that we as integrators need to take lightly. That's hard to do. That's hard to do for you guys to kind of guess which products are going to move and which products we need to keep on the shelf, because that's an investment in inventory that you have to make. So, my hat's off to you. So what do you do? Well, the good thing is that my recommendation is keep abreast of what's going on outside of the traditional BMS realm. There is so much going on in the IT realm right now. I've had the opportunity, and since my retirement, to kind of become more aware of what's going on specifically in the IoT realm outside the building automation. Cisco Systems has spawned off about 6 new incubator type companies that are focused very specifically on IoT. Now, obviously, they work with the Cisco framework very well, but the reality of it is that we've got people from US, from Asia, basically from all over the world that are very focused on what's going on and how can they kind of catch the wave of this open platform. I mean, when you begin to see building automation level components and capabilities built into a Raspberry Pi that you can buy for $35, it's really getting to the point to where it's a little bit of a Wild West, a little bit right now. So as a distributor, you really got to have to listen to all those trends, because the next request that you get from one of your contractors may not be for a Johnson Controls or a Barber Coleman control. Right. It may be for something from Automaton or from Cisco. And so you guys be constantly looking for those new products and what's on the horizon.
Well, you're right, and we it's a very interesting. This period of disruption, we call that, and all the there are no more sweet spots. You got to wake up every day and assess the situation and keep on tabs. I did have one comment or one question that we've seen a big trend is this 300 metric, the new measurement of building performance, and we of course Comfy is an interesting product out there. But how do you think that we can really make an impact on that space? I mean, Paul Oswald said it's actually 10, 100, and 1,000, because that's what it costs per square foot for your energy and what it costs for your investment for your lease or whatever, and then your people. I mean, are we going to make an impact on that? Do you see us? Can we achieve real results in that other metric?
Well, there's no doubt. Number one reason why leases are not renewed in commercial property is comfort. I mean, no doubt about it. So it's a driver. And every property manager, property owner is very, very keenly aware of that. Got one great customer that we were able to put a system in when I worked at McKinney's and still maintain contact. And their primary focus is customer comfort. I mean, pure and simple customer comfort, because they know that if their tenants aren't comfortable, their phone's going to ring, so they want to find out. So no doubt about it. Now, can I boil it down to ratios? Well, I think Paul Oswald is a great and wonderful man, and I'm in awe of him quite a bit. He has a lot more calculating mind than I do as it relates to those things. And so I don't really know necessarily quantify or refute numbers or so forth. And I hold the folks at Comfy in high regard, because they've opened up what looks like a pretty interesting new potential business opportunity there, where truly focused around comfort, drives things forward. So there's no question about it. In the commercial space, comfort is a key driver. And so I think it's definitely a trend that we're going to continue to see increase.
Very cool. There we have it. We have Leroy Walden from High Rose Consulting. Leroy, thank you so much for taking some time to be with us. We've got a link to a special offer. Click that link, email Leroy. You get a discount on the Realcomm Ibicon show. Plus, if you're one of the first 20, you get a ticket to the Control Trends Awards, and we'll set you up with a table with Leroy so you can party with him. And with that, Leroy Walden, man, thank you so much, my friend.
You guys are the best. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Eric.
Have a great one, buddy. Bye. Hey, man, great stuff from Leroy. We got to get him back on the show more often, Kenny.
Yeah, we sure do. He's just another commensurate expert. He spent his life, gave a whole lot of time and energy to the business, and now he's got a whole lot more to give in
sure does.
The capacity of a consultant. So that's cool.
Sure does. Well, listen, we're kind of jumping around a little bit on control trends this week, but boy, I tell you what, there was a great new product offering that came out from ACI. So tell our listeners a little bit about that, Kenny.
Sure. ACI's differential low pressure sensor has arrived, the DLP. ACI does a great job, American company with they win award after award for their leadership in the community. They have a great product. They were recognized for being one of the best businesses in Wisconsin. And here you just got some granular information about a product that they've got good training too. So there's a nice little video to accompany the marketing collateral, where they talk about the applications, and they talk about why this DLP is specifically good for applications. And again, it's low pressure. So,
like that company a lot, Kenny. Them along with Functional Devices both did very well at the Control Trends Awards and do great stuff. Because I tell you, without the peripheral devices, I mean, the systems just don't exist. And I want to shift gears a little bit as we wrap it up. I really want to sort of dedicate the last part of the show to Mike and Lim from EasyIO. And they've really taken it upon themselves, Kenny, to educate folks. And we got a couple of posts up this week regarding that. We got some more to post, but let's tell our audience a little bit about what Mike and Lim are up to.
Okay, I mean, this is like you say, this is I think it's a new trend in the industry, and as you can see with the manner of the presentations, there's 2 videos here, each one of them 17 minutes long, and the first one is EasyIO's Mike Marston and Lim Hoon Chat discuss the FW wireless controller that will change the world, and this is a no joke, presentation. In other words, Lim is one of the smartest guys we've ever had the opportunity to work with, and he basically, has a philosophy that's getting stronger, and more meaningful, and that is that there's a whole lot of improvement to be done with the way we use technology and the way we access technology. So the first of the video series from EasyIO's Mike Marston and Lim Hoon Chat, who share their visions of the FW series wireless controllers that they believe will change the world of building automation. Lim cites how Wi-Fi, the de facto protocol for wireless networking, has been around for over 20 years, and because it's so pervasive in each generation is inherently compatible with the previous generation, it's easy and ideally suited for the HVAC building automation industry. Plus, Wi-Fi keeps up with the constant challenges of security. In other words, as things get hacked, they improve the security to protect it. And by adding I/O, inputs and outputs, to an existing low-cost router, EasyIO is able to take advantage of the latest and greatest IoT technologies, especially the processor speeds and expanded memory of these routers that are millions upon millions are made, so it drives the price down. So rather than try to put that on board a controller, you take an existing router and you make it a controller by adding I/O to it. And this FW8 and 14, which they have actually got, VAV applications using the wireless that they're going to show at the global event in England, is going to be a game changer. And they also have, the CPT tool and the SOX Sedona tools that are readily adaptable for the wired engagements. The wireless to wire requirements. So if you do have issues where wireless isn't working because of obstruction, steel, glass, mirrors, reflection, sunlight, anything else you can disturb wireless, you can make that part of the application hardwired because their controllers can take MSTP, BACnet, or Ethernet. The thing I wanted to say that was really cool is the CPT tool is no charge. There's no license. It's a great tool. It's very easy to use, and they're getting better. In fact, there's 8 videos coming out that do the training that can take somebody from 0 to 60 with the EasyIO line. So the second video, I mean,
well, hang on a second. I want to hop in real quick.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things you mentioned, we hear over and over people, Ken Sinclair talks about it. I mean, Leroy talks about it, is, people using the Raspberry Pi, right? You can use a Raspberry Pi, one of those devices, and program it to do HVAC. And one of the key pieces here that Lim and Mike point out, you can do that, but then you have to learn a programming language like C or C++ or whatever, where with this, you can use the Sedona or you can use just the wire sheets. You already know how to do this programming. So I think that's a really cool piece.
Well, the next one is, again, a favorite topic of ours is EasyIO's Mike and Lim preview next generation smart sensors and introduce the Early Guns Education and Learning Program. This video here is even more remarkable than the first one, I think, because it gives a different view of how these folks think, and they're not thinking, it's way outside the box. But Lim believes that there's a way to cure one of our biggest problems, and that is having qualified people, technicians. So he's come up with an amazing insight to programmer starter kits and educational programs to kickstart the next generation of systems integrators and HVAC technicians in the elementary schools and in the early rounds of learning. That you can make this programming tool so inexpensive and so accessible that you can basically have $100 worth of or $50 worth of controllers, and as long as there's a computer, they can load their software in there, and these kids can play around with block. They can start programming at 8, 9, 10. The way they have the incredible abilities to do play video games and to play all kinds of iPhone apps. Imagine if they had a chance to learn about mechanical and make it fun and make it computer driven, so that the school can introduce mechanical information and programming and engineering and systems integration at an early level. So they also talk about Lim kind of trims down all the marketing fat and says, okay, look, first we had M to M, machine to machine, now we're calling it IoT. To him, they're basically the same thing. And smart sensors and edge devices, same thing. But now they're talking about technologies where they're going to put real smarts on sensors. So the sensors will actually have inputs and outputs on them right at the sensor level. And it's pretty clever. So I'd listen to this video and then wait for the next one to come out, because they're introducing these technologies at EasyIO's global event in Manchester in May.
I tell you, Manchester's going to be great, man. Good stuff with those guys. Very innovative. And talking about lean and mean, man, both those guys have gotten in great shape. So not only are they just coming up with great technology, they're showing us, they're leading the way in how to take care of yourself as well. All right, Kenny. So what was our final post?
All right. Well, there was a real quick. We have the DDC training with the BAS Control 22 from Contemporary Controls. Another outstanding move by Contemporary Controls is they're making something available for colleges and training centers interested in providing direct digital control training systems training. Contemporary Controls recommends using their BAS Control 22 unitary device and their curriculum. So basically, you're seeing, EasyIO is doing an incredible training with videos and really using social media and really putting stuff out in the hands of the customer and the clients and the contractors. Well, the Contemporary Controls has joined the group. They've always been very giving with information and knowledge and information about networking. So this one here is even more outstanding, because they're going to, they believe that the BAS 22 is an ideal controller for training technicians on programming DDC and the use of unitary building automation controllers. So fabulous stuff.
Absolutely fabulous stuff. And, we had identified the trend about, the tribal knowledge leaving the building. Where are we going to fill this gap? We've been talking about that for years. And it's so great to see companies like EasyIO and Contemporary Controls jumping in, addressing the problem, getting young people interested in this and giving them the tools to become good at it. So with that, Kenny Smyers, I think we got to call it a week. So a special thanks to our guest, Leroy Walden. Be sure to sign up for Realcomm IBCon as well as EasyIO. We'd love to see you at these events as well as Haystack. So with that, Kenny Smyers, get your Easter Bunny suit on, because I got to get mine on. And to the rest of our Control Trends community, happy Easter. Remember, be bold and stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. And that's a wrap. All right, buddy. Good.